This time, Yerushalmi Ma'asros. The article is about edition. We are at the top of Chav Tes Abel, which is Mishnah Tes, the series of Mishnayos. Given Shinatua, and that is in the on the Vilna, the bond that's on base, the last line. Given Shinatua L'Chotzer. Okay, so the Mishnah says, if you have a grapevine which is planted in the Chotzer, it's normally Chotzer is Kavel Ma'asros, but this is actually planted in the Chotzer, and let's call it Eshkol. You can take the entire cluster of grapes and claim a rimon and sold it by a pomegranate. So it's there's a cluster as many grapes, and but since they're already mitzuraf, made, so to speak, as when they're there in the vine, so if we're plucking them off the vine, even though they have many grapes in their hand, doesn't make them, it's not a tziruf. By a rimon, you take the entire pomegranate. Well, it's not as big a chiddush, it would seem, because it's all one pomegranate. And avatiach, well, I guess because it's large, a melon, also it's not koved. Even Rabbi Dafer. Can you remember gargar be'eshkol? Nothing to do it. You can take one by one the grapes off the cluster. But you took the entire cluster off the tree. Considered like it's indeed like a tziruf and gemar malacha, and the chutz is kovea for ma'aser. And more of a chiddush, I guess, is by the pomegranate. When it says pore perimon, you can't take the whole pomegranate. You can take piece by piece of the peeled pomegranate with the kernels, and the surface of atiach, you can cut piece by piece of it, but it has to be from a chuber, right? In other words, you can't, once you pluck it off, pluck the pomegranate off, or the atiach off, by definition, it's mitzura, v'imei. So if you have to open up the pomegranate on the vine, take off piece by kernel by kernel, and cut pieces off the melon while it's still on the vine in the chotzer. Okay, Mishnah Yud. Te'enu she'emes chotzer, you have a fig tree standing in the chotzer, but noit l'gina. But its foliage inclines towards a garden outside the chotzer. Oichel kedarko, you can eat normally in the gina, and uparti is parti. I mean, it's beginning, what about the other way around? It's standing in the garden, but its foliage inclines into the chotzer. You can't eat kedarka. You can only eat it's kovea, and therefore you only eat one by one. You tzir of chayv, and you join them together. You're chayv. Omedes b'aretz, if the tree is standing in Eretz Yisrael, and the chutzlets incline to chutzlets. Omedes chutzlets, so vice versa. Kolich achar ikar, everything follows the trunk. We go after where the trunk is, because that's where its yinika is. Pati arichoma, also by Pati arichoma, hakol holech achar ha'ikar. This is, you sold a tree in the chutzer of chutzer of a house, which is mukeves chayim mosim l'shum manun. You have a gula of 1 year, so it depends if the tree is in the chutzer of that house, the trunk is there, so even though its foliage extends out into the fields, has the din of the bais or choma as well. We are in miklat. By our miklat, if the murderer is sitting in the foliage extends outside the city. Or the other way around. If you always go to the foliage does not follow the trunk. If the foliage is inside, he's okay, even though the trunk is outside. If the foliage is outside, it's no good, even though the trunk is inside. Obviously, Unika has nothing to do with miklat. It's not a question of growth. But the question is then, of course, why they do that, but they are a chama. This is something which we'll have to find out, and I think we'll get to the Gemara. So the Gemara says, Yerushalmi Ma'asros. Similarly, if you have, if the foliage is inside Yerushalayim, the fruit that grows in the foliage cannot be redeemed. Because you can't be putting Mashasheni in Yerushalayim, even though Ikar b'chutz, even though the trunk is outside, and vice versa. If the foliage is outside, even though the trunk is inside, you can't redeem it. Of course, also the question is why this should be the case. Okay, hopefully the Gemara is going to speak about it. I think that's the end of the Mishnah for us. Yeah. Tani. So now the Gemara goes back and deals with the The first in the series of Mishnayos, which was Mishnah Ches. So Tanya. Nice lo shows fatzeh barishonim v'shniyah v'shlishis. That just says eat one by one. If you join them together, you're chayiv. It's lav dafka. But there's an oifen manner that even if you could collect them together, you're potter. What's that? If you squeeze the first one, right? We're talking about here the teino shemes b'chotzer. You squeeze it in order to prepare to eat before you gather the second one. Because the p'tzia, when you squeeze it, evidently that removes him at the status of being a goren. It's marafulda. So and that's talking about by figs and by olives. You prepare them, you crush them in order to make them sweeter, makes them better to eat. So I suggest here, maybe you prepare them, both the figs and the olives, in order to check them for worms. So in any event, that petzia undermines the tziruf. Each one is still considered to be independent. The ones you putzer are not mitzvah, the ones you not putzer. It's a fascinating idea. So, Panam B'Shem Shlishis, you have to, so the Gemara says, this is, you have to do the p'tzia 3 times in order to make it suitable achila. Obviously, it seems not to be talking about for worms, although you could say worms once, twice, 3 times in order to check it out. I'm not sure. But in any event, it's kind of weird. But the question is, what next line, what Rabbi Yoina is saying. Rabbi Yoina B'Shem Rabzira said, Shem liket es hashneim v'tok k'dei shahusu v'shoina niplu shneim. If before you finish crushing the first one, you picked up the second one, right? The tok k'dei shahusu v'shoina. They were saying they both become tavo because you didn't finish the p'tzia of the first one before you pick up the second one, so it's a form of tziruf. Okay? There are different girsos here. And I'd like to look up for a moment a different girsa. So I have not done this yet since we began Maseches Ma'asros. But there's a Perush on Maseches Ma'asros by Professor Yehuda Felix Olav Shalom. And he was an agronomist. And it was a good place to look at what exactly this p'tzia is doing. Okay, I suggest the Kavanaki doesn't really explain what you did. It just says you prepare it for eating. I suggested to check it for worms. The question how they would apply to olives. In any event, so he talks about it. He says, first of all, p'tzia. He says. You can say he agrees to the Kavanaki here, I guess in the Burin, who says that Lamatzan P'tzia Eitzel Ella Eitzel Zaysim. We normally don't find P'tzia by Tainim, which makes this more very difficult, right? Because it sounds like we're going on, but the P'tzia is going also on the figs. So he says, what is he going to do with it? So he says, but we find in Mishnah and Shvi'is, because it says, Sachis HaPagin, you can anoint the pagin, the unripe figs, and pierce them until Rosh Hashanah. And these are activities that are done in order to hasten the ripening of the unripe figs. So here, when we're talking about the figs, it's a similar activity. We're talking about figs which are adjacent. They are almost at the point where they're chayiv and ma'asros, which in Paragab Mishnah is called Hateni Mishias Richu, when they shine. And at that time, the skin of the fig has some sort of sap, which is which looks like milk, a milky sap, which is doesn't taste good. It says it's a rave, sharp. That by cutting a little bit, you can remove it. And then you can immediately eat the fig. So in order to remove that sap from the skin of the fig, it's best to make a bunch of cuts, crushing or cutting. And therefore, what it means here, according to this, is despite the special treatment, since it's talking about eating individual fruit, it's still considered achilas arai. He also says it's placed to explain also fatzea bar means to chew it. But let's go with the shot which he's giving, which is that it's a ptia by al, which is done in order to sweeten them. It's done by the figs in order to make them remove that sap. So Tani Nosim, which shows the Batseba Rishon Hashem Shlishis, according to this interpretation, means that he can cut, bash, whatever he's doing in order to get out that sap 3 times, and it's still not considered to be Kovei Ma'asros, and despite and nothing to do with being Mitzaref. It's not considered to be finishing the pre, because taking out the sap will make it royal achila, but it's not a form of finishing it. And by olives, it'd be a similar thing, but there, it's known that the olives are crushed or pierced or whatever's done to them in order to make them sweeter. Rabbi Yerim B'Shem Razir said, "Shim liked as Hashem b'tokadei shos rishono." He says, "Wait a minute, if you collected the second one while you were still working on the first one, so then nitbu stand, they both become tevel. So it seems like he's qualifying the brisa, even though he was shlishis, but you only can holding one in your hand, and if you add another one while you're still doing the first one, they both become tevel. Okay, let's see what the Felix says here. It says that this Amar is coming to explain the bride, so we give him a show, according to his opinion, after these punctures or these crushes or these bites, you can't collect and gather a second fig without eating the first one. Otherwise, you're mitzaref. Okay, and this, he says, is one of the Kisvayad has Shimliket Hashnia Tok Kidei Shahus. Oh, yeah, here's the Vilna is. Shimliket Hashnia Tok Kidei shows Hashnia. Hebrews name. That's here's the Vilna. He and Karnaki had changed it, and I didn't notice it. And he also changed it based on one of the Kisvayat. Kidei shows Rishoina, right? Shimliket Hashnia Tok Kidei shows Harishoina. Name. So it has to be with this process of ptia. It's true. You will let you do ptia, and it still has to be kabul and ma'asros, but you can't go on to the second within the process, within the time of finishing the first. Even though, right? So according to this girsa, shows Rishona, even though you haven't finished doing the ptia and Rishona, they're both tevel. Even according to the girsa, which is in the Vilna, that Shimliket Hashnia Tokadei shows Hashnia, Hebrews name. So again, then I guess we're going through the amount of ptzios, right? In other words, since he said Hashnia V'Shlishis. So then, it means that you could, if you did it, say the first fig once, and then collect the second fig, it's not here. You would say the second one. The first one a second time, and then he got another fig. So then, but it could be we can add, as I'm going through this, could be often altogether different shot in Gemara. See, what do you think? That Tainosu shows a first, a second, and a third fig, not 3 times in the same fig. The first, a second, and a third fig. And it means that you can be tired of the 3 figs. And if you haven't put say of them yet, because they still have this sap in them, which makes them not completely kavur yet. So then it's not koveya for Ma'asros. You can have the first, the second, and third, as long as you still weren't potzea them, right? The completed being potzea them. There's still no kriyas. Rabbi Yoina B'Shem said Shimlikid Ashniya B'Tokdei Shos Harishona. If you gathered the second one within the amount of time that you could have been mevatzeh the first one, was you had enough time to finish being mevatzeh the first one. You didn't, but you could have. So then already it's nikbul. So then they both become table. So if you really go up to 3, if you're still moving what's that then, but if enough time has elapsed, so you finish your process, you've finished. Could finish with the first one, maybe you take the second one. You're fine. Could be that's some Shana Gemara. And now looking at the article, I see that the Hitaka changes here. The Vilna said Tokdei shows Hashniya. He has Tokdei shows Hashniya in parentheses and a Rishona then in brackets. So maybe in the text he changed it. Okay, Rabbi Yirmiyah boy. The Gemara goes on. Rabbi Yirmiyah asks, Zark is trying L'malam Me'avir Asora. You're juggling. You tossed one up in the air above 10 o'clock. Let's be there is a mata me'avir asora, and it didn't come down. This is a classic Rabbi question. It's on the Bible, obviously. It's a classic Rabbi question. And it didn't come down ad shalikas ashniya until you picked up the second one. The Ipushtaim, they're both teva. It's like to be tiruf if you were juggling. So Scott Menaki says it's a bylaw. If but it could be it's actually a statement, right? So in other words, he says, Nick Pushlim. Yeah, don't think just because you're juggling, they still remain teva. Okay, besides going further, we have a header, Kapanaki, maybe the other ones. And this is going on back in Mishnah Shemer, Achas B'Yumina, Achas Mo, Achas B'Piv. They join together, right? Maybe you're going to ask question juggling because Shimon sounds like he's juggling. Okay, Tanya of Lezer Shimon Lezer says Sholosh B'Yumina, 3 in his right hand. Sholosh is small, 3 in his left hand. The Sholosh B'Piv and 3 in his mouth. So he says that since he says the derech of people is to put up to 3 in the right hand, up to 3 in the left hand, and up to 3 in their mouth. So the Shimon said in the Mishnah that if it's 1 in right hand, 1 left, and 1, I'm saying I got this wrong. Tanakama is the one who holds it. 1 in your right hand, 1 in your left hand, 1 in your mouth is mitzaref. And Shimon says no, it's not mitzaref. It's only mitzaref if you have not mitzaref if you have 1 in your hand, 1 in right, 1 in your left hand, 1 in your mouth. That could be in one place. But he says that there's a yesh rule. There's a limit. In other words, Shimon says 3 in your right hand, 3 in your left hand, and 3 in your mouth. Then already it is considered to be keva. The Kavanaki is slightly differently. He says no, up to 3 in your right hand, not slightly. It's very differently. Up to right, 3 in your right hand, up to your left hand, and 3 in your mouth. It's still not kavua. I don't think that's pshat. The pshat is that when you get up to 3 in your right, 3 in your left, and 3 in your mouth, it is kavua. Then Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon says, "When I date to have a ochlon." Rabbi Shimon we know was a large person. He was as Mora Matia that paid dollar speaks about at length. So only this was till you had 3, 9, 3 in one hand, 3 in the other hand, 3 in your mouth. It was also considered to be for him considered to be keva. Okay, Rabbi Lezer Shimon also got Rabbi Yosef ben Lakunya. He went to the Lakunya's Chazi. He saw Chamui, his father-in-law. I'm not sure it's about that in the Bavli that was his father-in-law. I don't remember that ever in the Bavli mentioning his father-in-law. So he went to his his father-in-law Hava Maziglei, who Rabbi Yossi was pouring from wine. Bushasi, and Rabbi Lezer should have drank. Maziglei Bushasi, pouring from drank. Amalei says, Lo shamat min avu kama adam tzarich ligmos b'kos. So we have a Gemara in Pesachim that pay Bob. It says somebody who drinks his cup in one basachas is a gargaron. It's not good manners. Shnayim drinks cup in 2 sips. It's their cheretz. If it's 3 sips, then it's gasei ruach. That's inappropriate. It's too haughty. So one is too ravenous, one is appropriate, and one is too haughty. So the Yerushalmi seems to hold that there's also nakuda here to wait between each cup, which the Bali doesn't mention. So he says that Amalei said kamo she achas. So he says says that the amount of weight is the amount which normally you would wait if you have kamo shehi. I parsed that wrong. Kamo shehi achas. The one which is properly diluted, so whatever amount of tapes you can drink takes to, in other words, normal water, 1 cup, and I guess you should stop afterwards. To Tzeinestein, it's cold water, 2 cups, chaim and shalosh, and in hot water, 3 cups. Now, that's how I determined it based on what he's saying, mazale bushase. But we could also say that, no, he's talking about swallows. Look at the Vilna, the language in the Vilna is, let's see what the article actually has it. Yes. Yeah, so the question according to the article is, and like the Kabanoki has here, in 1 cup, how many swabs to take it. But that doesn't seem to be the Pashut on the Gemara. The Pashut on the Gemara seems to be, how many cups can you drink? And he's saying that, well, if it's normal mezika, 1 cup, it's cold, 2 cups, hot, 3 cups. But in any event, they weren't discussing your wine, which is really good wine. Nor your cup, which is a small cup. Nor my stomach, which is very broad. So everything is relative. Okay, so when he's talking about amount of swallows or amount of cups, everything is relative to how good the wine is, how big the cup is, and how large the person is. And the one says, "Bahava." Rabbi Shimon was shouting at Rabbi Elazar Shimon, "Chala bar chamra." Now this is back refers to, it seems to Gemara Bamitzia there, where it says that the Elazar Shimon helped to capture Ganovim, helped the government capture Ganovim, even though they were Jews. He was a thief catcher, and Shimon was upset. He called him the vinegar son of wine. Amalei says, "Lo matzavech li kain." Why are you calling me a kain? It's not fair. I'm compelled to it. The government's making me do it. As Shimon had told him, let it be known to the government, he's let it slip out. How he can tell who's a goner by going to the bar in the morning, see and can tell who was up all night. So they forced him to do it. It's not my fault. I'm going to say, "Ada raktis v'azaz little kia." I'm going to call you this until you run away to Lukia, which is very far away, and the government will not make you do it there. Amalei says, "V'laka kotzin kasuchin and kasachti." Is not, and it's the same language discussion in the Bali. It's not that moving, disgusting, not disgusting. Thorns that you already cut. I'm cutting. It's the way the Black Kabbalah explains it, because of Shem Chaim Kikurim Mason. So if we're just removing people who really have removed themselves. Amalei says, "V'lo hayalacha leilach hasof olam." You should not have got to the end of the world. You leave the owner of the vineyard, and there's also Rosh in the Bible, that he should cut off his own thorns. It's not your business. Okay, so now the Gemara says Nizgagum Ma'amachazutha. So the end of the Mishnah says if you go up to the top of the date tree, you can eat as many as you want. There's not Gemara Malach, there's no guard at the top. You bring them down, so then they become tevel, down the chutzer. So what if they fell down from the top of the tree and then you put them back up again? Right? So the Ma'amachaz, you want to put them up. It's got me allow fell down Ma'amachaz, so you put it down to the top of the tree and eat them there without potato with your mices. My tamer tamon, just like we had in the first parak. No, in the beginning, the first parak of this parak. You bring figs from the field to eat them in your chutzer shenim mishtameres. And forget to bring them to your house. You can put them back in your chutzer shenim mishtameres. Eat them from our right. He do the same thing here. Says more no. Tama machzir l'makam tur. There you're putting back to the makam tur chutzer shenim mishtameres. And we just it's only koveh if it's something where it was you deliberately brought it there. Bram hacha, but here it's machzirim makam tur. Is it calling makam tur? Don't forget this. It's in the chutzner. It's very high up, right? But it's in the chutzner. That's not going back to makam tur, because the makam tur we gave you dispensation when you're up in the tree, but it's like rakias, so to speak, right? The Erev. So here too, you're not putting back a makam tur. It happens to be the situation was a situation of tur if you were eating them when you were up there. But how they got to the ground? To bring them out straight up, it's not going to put a makam tur, and therefore it won't do any good. You still have to take off the it's cooling mices. Okay, so the next question tomorrow, although it's a related question, I think with since we're on call Ramen and we went pretty long today, we'll stop here for today.